Welcome back to Verified Live. Let's turn to Beijing and the power play of images we've been seeing. The leaders of China and Russia have been meeting ahead of a huge military parade, which will take place tomorrow to mark 80 years since the end of the Second World War. President Putin said relations between the two countries had reached an unprecedented level. President Xi said their governments should strengthen their coordination on the world stage. Joining President Xi and Putin and more than 20 other leaders at Wednesday's spectacle will be the North Korean leader Kim Jong Un in what is his first trip to China for 6 years and the first time he's ever attended an international gathering. Here's our China correspondent, Laura Bicker.
Kim Jong Un is making his boldest diplomatic move in years. This is his signature armoured train moving through Beijing. China has not officially announced his arrival, but his motorcade was caught on camera in the capital. He's here to meet his two neighbours, who already had talks over tea, where Vladimir Putin touted his close ties with his friend Xi Jinping. The nature of Russia-China relations are at an unprecedentedly high level, he said.
I know.
The Russian leader may be by his side, but this is Mr. Xi's moment in the spotlight, a chance to showcase a new world order, one not led by the United States. This was a key embrace. The Indian Prime Minister, once a US ally, now hit with Donald Trump's trade tariffs, is moving closer to Beijing. All three were at a summit earlier this week, hosted by Mr. Xi, along with more than 20 other world leaders. But the biggest spectacle has yet to come. The final rehearsals for a parade to mark the end of the Second World War are now over. The city is ready for a grand display.
The parade is important. It will highlight the discipline of our soldiers, and their morale will be high.
The parade will showcase China's strength and let the world know we are a big country and we have power.
President Xi is the senior partner in this trilateral relationship. North Korea relies on China for much of its food, and a heavily sanctioned Russia needs China to buy its oil and gas. And although they've seen each other at some point, this is the first time all three have been seen together in public. The parade will be full of pride and patriotism, but it's also a clear challenge to the West and a chance for Xi Jinping to project his growing power and influence.
Well, that was Laura Bicker. Let's speak now to Ian Williams, former foreign correspondent for NBC. And Ian, welcome here to BBC News. Your assessment, first of all, in terms of what we've been seeing in China, in Beijing over the last couple of days.
It is a remarkable display, a remarkable performance, a piece of theatre almost, with Xi Jinping very much pitching for his position as the head of the new world order. He's been building towards this, of course, ever since Trump launched his first round of tariffs, talking about US bullying, talking about the need to rally round against Washington. But this is the clearest pitch he's made for that leadership. And there he is in the presence of these world leaders, notably Putin and Kim, who are both now in Beijing. But it is very much throwing down the gauntlet to Washington, and the clearest display yet of the ambitions of Xi, and the way he does considerably overshadow Putin and also Kim.
It's interesting because you told our producer Russia wants to undermine the system, China wants to replace the system, and this is the most potent display. So do you think they are succeeding in those objectives?
I think they are. If we look at Putin there today, he's surrounded by, he has deputy prime ministers with him, cabinet ministers, the heads of oil companies, gas companies, arms producers, the central bank. He's there very much as a supplicant. He needs China far more than China needs him. He is by far the most senior partner in this relationship. And I think that the body language was screaming that yesterday. And this very much is Xi's moment, and Putin is there showing his economic dependency and his political dependency on Xi. And this is really Xi's moment to shine, of course, with the big highlight coming tomorrow with that vast military parade through Tiananmen Square.
And what's your reading of Kim Jong Un being there, the significance of that?
Well, this is the first time that all three of them will have been seen together in public, presuming they're standing there watching this parade take place. You are seeing, in a sense, the three protagonists in Ukraine. By that I mean there's Russia, which is fighting the war, there's Korea providing the cannon fodder, and China, which is very much underwriting the whole war by its economic support and political cover that it's giving to Russia. So the significance of seeing all three of them together, all three leading members of the anti-Western axis, if you like, and also the leader of Iran will be there, but not with such prominence, I think will be taken very seriously and very with a large amount of worry in Western capitals.
Two quick questions, because, of course, we've seen Narendra Modi, India's Prime Minister, also there. Now, when Donald Trump came into power, a lot of those early briefings were all about tackling the China threat. You look now, 8-9 months on, China looks stronger in terms of influence and reach. So in terms of basic Trump strategy, has it backfired?
I think it has, particularly with India. I think that's been one of the most notable things of this last couple of days is Narendra Modi and his appearance in Tianjin yesterday. He feels humiliated by Trump. He feels let down. And it's remarkable to think that that China and India were fighting a small war in the Himalayas just 5 years ago, and that the West has spent many years trying to embrace India, promoting its democracy as a member of the D10, it was called, group of democratic countries, bringing India into the fold to contain China. And the way it's now blown back because of what looks like very cack-handed diplomacy on the part of Donald Trump is really quite remarkable. I think a lot of what we'll see this week is performative, particularly the Putin-Xi axis. But Modi's role, I think, will be one that is most worrying.
Yes.
For Western capitals.
You touch on where I want to finally go. Just briefly and finally, I mean, the optics are obviously impressive. How far beyond optics does it go in terms of substance?
Well, that is the key question, because the relationship, particularly between Putin and Xi, is one of convenience, one of strategic interests. They both have the same enemy in the West, although, as we pointed out, Russia seeks to undermine, China seeks to replace. But at the moment, it's driven by a confluence of interests, very hard-nosed interests. I think looking at Modi's role yesterday and going forward, he too was playing a role. He's there trying to send a signal to Trump, a signal to the West. Look, I'm nobody's fool. I have other friends. I won't be treated this way. So there is a very complex performance theatre going on this week behind the headline pictures that we're going to be seeing over the next day or two.
Ian Williams, fascinating talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us on today's programme. Thank you.